You don't have to become a brilliant negotiator overnight. You just need to avoid a few psychological temptations that will definitely show up when you're dealing with price negotiation with a client. And I caught myself feeling this last week, and I've been doing this for 4 years. So I think every freelancer feels these things. It's just noticing them and being able to avoid them. Now, temptation number one is to explain yourself. So a client questioned my price last week. He simply said, wow, that's more expensive than I expected. But my brain went into overdrive and started telling a story that he was offended by my price. So my immediate temptation was to explain why the price was the way it was. So how long the work would take, everything that was included, all the different things I have to do. And then I had to stop myself because I realized that we understand pricing perfectly when we're the customer, but we forget all about it when we're the seller. So imagine you're in a restaurant, you look at the menu and you see a steak for $55. You might say, wow, that's expensive. But in that moment, the owner doesn't come rushing out to explain where the beef came from and how the chef was really trained to cook the steak perfectly and how expensive the kitchen is. He simply lets you decide, do you want the steak or do you want something else? But when we become the seller, somehow we forget about that. And we suddenly think that the client needs to understand every bit of the process before they pay us. But they don't, and they never will, unless they've done the job themselves. They'll never understand it. They're simply deciding whether this is the right purchase for them right now. So instead, don't explain, just clarify. If they haven't actually asked why it costs what it costs, don't assume they need an explanation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply ask, what budget were you hoping to stay within? And then in that, they might reveal their actual budget. And this kind of leads on to temptation number 2. It's lowering your price. And this is where freelancers accidentally create resentment. The client questions the price, so the freelancer feels the need. Again, it's a temptation, and I still feel it all the time, to lower it immediately, to remove that awkward moment where they're saying it's too much and you're saying it's still the price. But the biggest mistake is not lowering the price. It's leaving the work the exact same. So same effort, same deliverables, just less money. That's not negotiation. That's just earning less. So instead, if the budget changes, then the scope has to change. And this is the biggest lesson I've learned in freelancing. So it's easier to show how this actually played out. The initial quote was $600. That's what the client said was expensive. Now in this scenario, here's what most people do. They'll either lower the price or they'll try and add more work. Something like, how about 25 clips for this price instead? Both reactions are trying to save the deal and they're trying to remove the guilt of feeling that you overcharged. But there's a massive opportunity you need to think about: redesigning the offer. So instead of making 20 clips cheaper, I offered 10 clips. But notice what changed. The price came down, but the work also came down, but actually not by the same amount. My margins improved here. So the client got what he wanted, a lower price, and I got what I wanted, a project that made sense for my business. So neither of us lost here. Think about every business you use. Hotels don't make the premium room cheaper. They offer a different room. Restaurants don't have the price of a steak. They offer chicken. Different product, different price. You're allowed to do exactly the same thing. Temptation 3 is to believe the first feeling, the first story that you tell yourself. I mentioned this earlier, that my brain went into overdrive over price pushback. And my temptation was to believe what it was telling me. And that's a huge mistake. So 4 years into freelancing, and I felt threatened because a client pushed back on a price. And I still feel that. The difference is now I don't immediately believe the feeling. Now let's go back to that message he sent me again and remember how I felt. I felt threatened and I felt like he was offended. But let's take a pause and think about what he actually said. He said that was more expensive than I expected. Now my brain told me he said you're too expensive, but he never said that. My brain told me he said you're not worth it, but he never said that. The comment was real, but the meaning I attached to it was not. So do not give in to that temptation to react straight away, to say something immediately. Pause. It's super important. Separate what's actually happened here from the story that your brain is creating. A client saying that's expensive or more than I expected may be just them having a conversation with themselves. It may just mean I'd like a smaller package, or I didn't understand the scope of what I've asked for, so can you present me with something else? And those are very different conversations than I'm offended by your price. So here's the framework. The next time a client questions your price or starts the negotiation process, remember this: never explain, clarify. Don't discount, redesign. Don't react, pause. Those 3 shifts in themselves have made pricing conversations a lot calmer for me. Now, the clients don't stop questioning your prices, but I've stopped treating everyone like a threat. One thing I'd have to say that has helped me more than anything else, whenever I'm involved in these conversations that still feel awkward at times, I try to remember what it feels like to be the customer. Because when I'm buying something, I question prices all the time. I say it's too expensive. A holiday, a house, a car. I'll think about it being expensive, of course I will. But I still buy sometimes. Or I might buy a smaller package. Or I might decide it's not for me. None of those decisions are ever personal. I'm simply trying to find the right option that fits my budget and my needs right now. So your clients are usually doing the exact same thing. So it's not your job to convince them to take your price. Make it your job to help them choose. And if you remember just one thing from this video, let it be this. If the budget gets smaller, the job has to get smaller too.